Welcome back to HN. This is Sasha for HN News, LFN Media. We're here today with that interview that we promised. We're bringing in YDK with LeLe to talk about some information that has never been heard. You're going to hear it first time here on HN. We're not sure how far this interview is going to go or if we're going to need to do multiple segments of it, but we're going to start out with talking about why we brought her here. What drew our attention to her was her promoting the petition for a pardon for Mr. Kelly on her website, YDK with LeLe, and she does a lot of it in her bonnet. So that is one of the things that drew me to contact her. So I'm going to turn this over to Bonnet Baby, as I call her, and let her start to talk about this, and I have some questions for her, and we're going to let her speak now. We're with YDK. Welcome, YDK.
Hi, Miss Sasha. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm blessed.
Good.
Glad to be here with you guys, and I want to apologize because I did see that you guys had reached out to me a couple of times, and unfortunately I didn't get back to you in time enough. But again, we do everything according to God's time and not our time. So I'm here with you today, and what do we have going on that you want to ask me that I may be able to respond to you, and we unconfuse the world about R. Kelly.
Okay, sounds like a plan. I know a few weeks ago when we originally had talked about doing an interview, I had reached out to you when the Rashana Lanfair book came out, Who's Watching Shorty, or Who Was Watching Shorty. So I have a couple of questions about that. I'm not sure about how much you can add to that, but whatever you do have available, information questions that you can answer, or let me know if you can answer. So we're talking about the book that Rashana Lanfair recently put out, and I want to know, do you know Rashana Lanfair?
No, I do not know her. I have not ever met Miss Rashana Lanfair.
Okay. Do you know what role she played in your brother's life, or?
Firsthand? No, I don't. What I'm hearing and seeing now, just by rumors.
Okay. And what I understand was she was brought in her family was related in the music entertainment world with your brother, and that she was young at the time and was brought in as a babysitter. Are you aware of any of that?
No. What I'm hearing is that she actually was the niece or something of Sparkle and was introduced to my brother, which is Robert Sylvester Kelly Sr., also known as R. Kelly. I did not say it, and I don't know if you guys know it, but I am the consecrated god sister of the King of R&B, Mr. R. Kelly, and it is a pleasure to be that. So that's why I say it a lot. But I don't know much about it. I do know that her dad was a musician for R. Kelly, and that her aunt, which is Sparkle, was the protege of R. Kelly. That's pretty much all I know about it, and that she has a book out.
Mm-hmm. And the aunt your brother produced an album for Sparkle.
Yes, Be Careful.
Okay. And so the title of the book was Who Was Watching Shorty. Do you have any idea who was watching Shorty, or where that title comes from?
That's funny that you say that. I don't know who was watching Shorty, who's supposed to been watching Shorty, why they wasn't watching Shorty, and why Shorty needed to be watched. I don't know about any of that. All I know is that the young lady has a book out, and that it's supposed to be a tell-all. However, I am hearing different versions of commentary about the book. I have not read the book, so I can't elaborate on anything that is in the book. The only thing I can go on is what I'm hearing on social media about the book. Okay.
And I have heard some other bloggers that were reporting on whether they had read the book, and in particular, not that you need to comment on. I do just want to say that I understand that one of the people who was around your brother at the time was Miss Sharon Winbush. I don't want to speak too much on that because, of course, I haven't spoken with her directly, but I have seen some of the information that she has posted regarding Sparkle and Shorty and his wife and the children and that period of time. So I do give some credence to what Sharon was able to report. Of course, that is her perspective. I can't add any life to that or any value to it one way or another, but that is her perspective. But I do say that there is someone who was there, and that is her perspective, that information is out there from a person who was there during that time frame. So I appreciate the fact that you actually were not there and are willing to be honest and say that you can't add much to that as far as that time frame in his life. But what we do know is that she was part of this last Chicago trial, and you were there for that. So just to stay on topic and on task with what happened with Shorty, what I understand about the 2008 trial is that there was a grand jury was brought, and she went before the grand jury, and there was an investigation regarding allegations of sexual abuse between your brother and her, and that there was a tape that was given to the newsroom rather than the police department, but it was eventually investigated by CPS, and the allegations were evidently, the case was closed either way, but a court case came up and he was acquitted on those charges, all of those charges in 2008. And just to bring anyone up to speed, in later on, I guess 2019 or 20, they decided to charge him again, and rather than it being looked at as double jeopardy for bringing a case back, there was a new charge, an allegation that he obstructed or tampered with the case in 2008, and that he got away with it. And so new information surfaced, and because there was new information that surfaced, I guess it was 2022 that they decided to charge him again with the same case from 2008, and the way they were able to bring it back was to bring it back by saying he obstructed justice and tampered with that case. And the what was said was that he paid for the parents and the girl, the Shorty girl, the Rashana Lanfair, to go out of the country during the time the trial was, so that there was no way that they could testify against him. That was their reasoning behind being able to bring the case back again for a second round to try to convict him, and ultimately they did end up getting a conviction, even though he was acquitted on the obstruction and tampering case. So I do want to talk a little bit about that, but you were at the trial, so could you just maybe tell us a little bit about what your take was on the whole Shorty being at trial?
I'm going to refer to her as Rashana, based on the simple fact that the book is about Shorty and I don't know Shorty. So I just know Rashana because that is who was actually in the court trial at the time I was there for Chicago. I do know that there were 13 counts, I believe, and he was found not guilty on 6 of those. And he was found not guilty on 7 of those and guilty on 6 of those. The 2 main ones that really stood out was the obstruction of justice as well as the conspiracy charges that to me sounded like double jeopardy because of what was done in his 2000 to 2008 trial or whatever. But like you said, they were able to bring that back. The young lady did take the stand, and it was a lot of, to me, like misleading and things of that nature when the prosecutors was talking to her, and a lot of the stuff that was there in the line of questioning for her, to me, sounded like his old case, which he was acquitted on. Mm-hmm. So I didn't understand why we were sitting through kind of like the same case, but now at a later date, which mm-hmm. was 2022. Only thing I can elaborate on is that they did bring her back. However, it's in the transcripts, as everyone has been reading, or majority of the bloggers have been reading, of her stating that she was promised Section 8 for the rest of her life, and it was able to be transferred down to her mom and, you know, her child, pretty much family or whatever, if she had cooperated with the government in bringing a guilty verdict against him in the 2022 trial, because they were trying to say that she was not truthful in the 2000 to 2008 case. Now, I do want to say this, though, and I don't know if you have questions for me later on down the line that may lead to this, and if you do, stop me so I won't, you know, start that here and you have those questions later. I don't want to confuse the interview. So I said all that to say this is pertaining to the book. She comes out with a book decades later about telling her story. Everybody have their own story. Only that person can tell their story. My question, and not badgering a young lady or anything like that, or even being against her telling her so-called story, I'm just a little confused as to why it would take so long for her to come out to tell her story, because she's been grown ever since we've known. Now, from her stating her age when she was at the Chicago trial, I just don't understand why it took so long for her to tell her story. And I'm going to say alleged story, because we haven't heard R. Kelly's story or his side of it about what she has in the book or what the blogger's been reading from her book, because again, I haven't read the book, so I really don't know what's in it and what it entails. But I just don't, that's the part that baffles me, is the fact that it took her this long to come out to tell it, when if it was something that was traumatic, as I told Mr. Julian Cruz on the WGN news when we were at the Chicago trial, is the fact that, hey, if something that traumatic, from what they're saying she described in her book, was that traumatic, you wouldn't forget it, and you definitely wouldn't hold on to it for dang near 2 decades or more and later bring it out, especially if you want to make it seem like it was criminal.
Okay, yeah, good points. It did bring to mind some of the things that I have thought of, and just to kind of summarize this, to put a timeline on this Rashana Lanfair shorty book as it's out there. I have heard bits and pieces of it. I did get the audiobook, but I listened to a little bit of it and never finished what was being, because there was enough out here that I could see where the book was going, and it is her story, and I take nothing away from that as well. I have no clue. I don't know her. I was never around this situation, but I do have some thoughts on just following in for the research, and as much as HN and LFN has invested in trying to bring the truth out here. For the sake of that, I want to say that in 2008, he was acquitted on those charges. The girl went before the grand jury. It was investigated by the police. It was investigated by CPS. Her parents were questioned. Whatever happened then, he was acquitted on. The court did have a chance to bring their witnesses then. It wasn't done. He was acquitted. That is a done deal. So I do want to say, when is a judge's decision or a jury's decision final? If he was brought to court on that, he was able to properly defend himself against the charges that were brought. A jury of his peers decided he was innocent. That should be a closed case. So I'm still on this double jeopardy thing with bringing it back. And had they brought it back with a very good reason, if he truly did tamper with that, I have no problem, and I don't think anybody should have any problem against them bringing it. There's new information that says he did do that. So bringing it back again, the majority of the people would probably feel, as I do, that there would be no reason that if there was proof or there was some allegation that he tampered with the first trial, that I guess the government should have another chance. If she is a victim, she should have another chance if there was proof that he did do that. However, had they separated that out and his attorneys insisted, and maybe they filed motions on this, I don't know, but had the attorneys filed motions to separate out that case, to really call that double jeopardy what it was, double jeopardy. So if they had brought an obstruction case and they had insisted, you prove he obstructed justice, and then we get another chance to bring this girl back, guess what would have happened? Just what exactly did happen. Daryl McDavid, his co-defendant, co-conspirator, his attorney, I guess Jennifer Bonjean was there with this Chicago trial. They were able to get those charges for obstruction and tampering with witnesses, all of that. That part of it is important. They obviously proved that, or there was proof, the defense was able to prove him innocent, and because he came in looking guilty. So if the defense was able to prove him innocent, there was no obstruction, no tampering, and I say conspiracy because they were joining that, saying that that there were co-defendants in that case, whether the charge was actually conspiracy or not. They showed that there was nothing that showed that. So why was she put on the stand now? If that was part of proving that he obstructed, the obstruction charges, once that was disproven, I would think that we didn't need to hear from her. There was a chance then that she, in 2008, if this truly happened the way it did, that he could have been found guilty of that. So if he was found guilty of the charges in 2008, they wouldn't have had a chance to bring this back again. So they only got the chance to bring it back again because they thought they could prove obstruction. So once that was done, we probably would not have heard from her again. And that is just nothing personal, whether this, the girl decided later that she wanted him to be charged, or the government decided later that they wanted to be charged. But the law is the law, and the law says a person should only be charged once, and they should not have to face their allegations more than once. And so that right there, whether it's R. Kelly or anybody else, the law broke their own law. We have to keep that in mind. That did he really obstruct justice? He didn't. He obviously didn't. They weren't able to prove that. So why is Rashana back there?
And they wasn't able to prove any conspiracy either. So I strongly felt and feel that, again, he should not have gotten any time for Chicago, period. Okay? And you and I will talk later when it comes to the New York. We'll stay here with the Chicago for now. But I know that there's only one government. But they decided to try him in two different states, both being government as the prosecution. I felt that he did not receive a fair trial. That is why I do push the petition, and not meaning that the petition would get him set free, but it would allow society to see that he didn't get a fair trial and he was denied a bond because of the fact that they thought he was a danger to society based on conspiracy and obstruction. They seriously thought that that's what he would do if he was to get bond. But let's not even stay on the bond. It's the fact of being a fair trial. I don't believe he got a fair trial, Chicago or New York. Mm-hmm. I don't believe that Chicago should have ever happened, period, point blank. New York trial, we'll cross that road when we get to it. But in the meantime, I actually don't have any other input pertaining to the Rashana Lanfair young lady and her family because I wasn't there. I don't know her. I don't know her family. I only knew of her, and I only knew of her dad, who was a guitarist for my brother, Robert Sylvester Kelly Sr., also known as R. Kelly.
Mm-hmm. Just to go back to the Rashana Lanfair thing a bit about how it ended up coming back. So she and just a little bit to the timeline here that I think leads you to a conclusion as to how we got here now. So she went before a grand jury, had an investigation. It was all unfounded. They still brought a trial in 2008. He was acquitted. It comes back up again. And she, in the meantime, between 2008 and 2022, she is still around. Her family is still around. Her father is still playing guitar or on albums. I understand there was some differences between her and Sparkle and the mother and Sparkle and what happened with Sparkle making these kind of allegations or problems with amongst them because of what had happened with this legal case or whatever, whether Sparkle was there or not. After that, I don't know, but there was still, so she went before a grand jury once and denied the allegation and then comes back in 2022. And in 2022, they bring new charges against her. And at that time, she decides to cooperate with the government. And I just want to bring up the fact that I wasn't at the trial, but I did hear about the promise of Section 8 and other information that she was, friends with the prosecution, and they were helping her out while she was going through a pregnancy or something like this. So there was some personal relationships that we're hearing that was developed during that time. Yes. And in the end, when she was in the courtroom, I know that any witness that's put on the stand is, and this is a concern, any witness that's put on the stand is asked if you were promised anything in exchange for your testimony. And the government evidently maybe were maybe a little bit...
They broke the law, like you said earlier. The law broke the law because you're not supposed to promise a witness anything if they are on the prosecution side or even the defense side for that matter. You're not supposed to promise them anything. And when that came out that they had promised her Section 8, I feel like that should have been the end of it. It should have been a mistrial. He should not have been tried for Chicago, period, point blank. That's what I believe. And a lot of stuff came out, like you said, maybe more than one part to our interview and us speaking about the different situations and things that surround his cases. True, but I do want to get out there that despite of all the witnesses that took the stand in the Chicago trial, they all ended with they still love him. They either had been upset with him because he didn't return some of their calls or something of that nature. Speaking on the young lady with the book, his attorney, Jennifer Bongine, brought up a lot of text messages between the two of them saying that she was trying to reach out to him and he was ignoring her. She got upset because of that. So that takes me back to why and how this book came about. because there was a blogger that also said the young lady was putting money on his commissary. So my whole take on that is, if you are a victim or a witness for the prosecution against him as the defendant, why would you be in contact with anyone that you say you were a victim of theirs decades later, from you claiming to be young, adolescent, or whatever you want to call it, up to your adulthood? There's no way I'm going to keep in contact with my so-called abuser. Yeah, I hear that sometimes they go through whatever psychologically and think that they, their actions and behaviors are kind of like normal for being a victim. I beg to differ, because if someone hurt me, someone hurt my child, and again, we may have to come back to that, because I do have a lot that I do want to say on those grounds of dealing with Rashana Lanfair, and not speaking in reference to knowing Rashana Lanfair, but just speaking to you from a mother's standpoint and having a daughter.
Mm-hmm. Right. And the other thing about something I think the viewers need to know, that I keep going back to this timeline thing, is that he was acquitted, it was brought back. In the meantime, in between time, she still had an ongoing, whether it was uncle, godfather, family friend, her dad played for him, they worked together, whatever the dynamics of the relationship was, she was still involved around from 2008 until 2022 on a regular basis.
Can I say this? I'm sorry. Attorney Bonjean did bring that up to Miss Rashana Lanfair about breaking down that godfather and goddaughter type of relationship. It was never under the covenant of God. So it was just like, something I can say, you're my sister because you and I talk, or because you have interviewed me before and we got a rapport with one another. I can call you my sister. Although you're my sister in Christ, I could just claim you as a sister. If someone was asked me, well, who is Miss Sasha to you? And I would say, oh, she like a sister to me. Well, being like A and being A is two different things. So he was not ever her godfather. Let's get that straight, okay?
Good point. Good point.
She was just allegedly told to ask him to be her godfather. And he allegedly said yes, that he would. Finding out the things that I've been finding out as far as his illiteracy and things of that nature, not being understand certain things and have comprehension of certain things in an adult form or what have you, is he just went along with that on the strength of Sparkle, knowing Sparkle, and Sparkle introducing him to Rashana Lanfair. Mm-hmm. That's where it stems at, and that's, I think, where we need to stay at, as well as the parents and her becoming an adult and still trying to be in his life when she's supposed to be a victim.
Right, and in 2022, this young lady was in her late 30s or
mid-30s, yes.
Yeah, or I believe we said 40 or something. She's hitting 40 or something. So
yeah,
she's up there. She's beyond 35. She's in a middle age gap now, right, or whatever. So she's come a long time with this, and in that time frame, obviously she's went through some changes, became a mother, these kind of things, and I've heard that's what something she says has brought her to claiming these things or looking at things a little bit differently back to her childhood.
But can I say this real quick? Mm-hmm. If she was listed as a Jane Doe, and if her family, her and anybody else that was attached to her, never identified her in the so-called infamous sex tape or whatever, I don't understand the purpose of coming out saying I want to claim my identity of being Rashana Lanfair and not the young lady that allegedly got urinated on in this infamous sex tape. again, like you said, it's probably going to be multiple segments of this because I have questions that you may can help me answer, and I'm going to try to answer as many questions as you have from what I know, witnessed, and experienced.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it gets pretty complicated because since that time, she had still tried to reach out to him or whatever, and to come back again and retract a story. So I just want to say that in 2008, she said it wasn't her. Sometime between that time, she still carried on some kind of friendship, relationship, mentorship, something, looked to him for advice, financial help, whatever it was she needed from him, and he was supplying that, and never was she claiming that it was because he owed her because he was abusing her. Never did it ever take that he was paying her off, and obviously he didn't pay off the 2008 as the government accused him of. So in 2022, he ends up with getting another charge and getting charged. And since that time, since he has been convicted, she has continued to try to wrong her right and redacted. It's out there on the YouTube streets, the stories that she now has given another sworn statement saying that she what she was promised was Section 8, and that was an incentive for her testimony. And she's went to these different news outlets since then after that, and now is doing interviews and put the book out there. So it just makes me believe, and I hope there's some other reason for it, that that this does come down to that this was about money, that she now is convinced that he was never going to get that this would never be reappealed, reheard of, that he has basically a life sentence. So to me, now we have a situation where she is never going to have his financial support, his friendship, anything else, like as if she is trying to redeem herself from that and is really at a crossroads as to what she can do to supply her lifestyle. And maybe now since this book, I don't know if maybe the government didn't give her what she promised, or somebody has told her he's never going to get out after she redacted the testimony from 2022. Now we have probably, so that to me there's 4 to 5 different times he did it, he didn't do it. She was here during the 2008 trial, not on vacation. I got questions. It just doesn't all add up to me as an outsider looking in, and I don't know Mr. Kelly personally, never met him, so I don't have any reason to not question that. And what I want to do is make sure that these thoughts, the information that's not out here, that people are able to look at this situation with a fine-tooth comb and ask yourself, is this justice? Is this fair? Why was he, if we had him charged in New York or we had him charged in Chicago, why wasn't it all rolled into one? Why were they spread out? And the government gets 2 times, two different jurisdictions, we're only one federal government. They get 2 different times to get an extra kick at the can to bring her back again. We really need to look at, what was done here, how this was laid out, how it was done. And really, I believe that he was left in the dark through this, leaning on his attorneys to do the right thing, to be able to have him fairly represented, that all of this would come out. And as he's sitting and waiting and not fussing at these people, not making noise from inside a jail cell, not having a voice to really speak out. And out of that frustration, the interviews that were done, the interview that was done with him, made him look like a different, that wasn't a completely fair setup against him interview with the Gayle King, which we will get into another day as well. Okay. And so basically, we're just kind of scratching the surface here as to what we want to be able to bring out. There will be more information this interview, we're just speaking woman to woman, mother to mother from our point of view. LeLe does know him personally, has known him for decades, was around but wasn't around for Rashana Lanfair. I just want to talk to her, get her take on that, because she does know some of the people that were around there. So we're not going to continue to talk about Rashana Lanfair. I think we did enough, but we will probably summarize that and get back to that, to just kind of, we just wanted to, originally we brought her in or talked to her about coming in because it was when the book came out that we started talking about what she might know about this, and really that's it. But we have much more to bring. We do want to talk about the New York case. We do want to talk about information that has never been put out here, firsthand information that LeLe does have regarding the Jane Doe number 5 situation. There has been a lot of talk. There's been a lot of stuff that's been put out here since the New York trial that has come about. So talk about new information that was put out, and that's a reason to bring something back to trial. I would say that the mother's sexting Mr. Kelly, pretending to be her minor daughter to entice him, extort him, entrap him, is a reason to bring a case back to trial, or to dismiss a case because the Bureau of Prison was leaking phone calls to the media, listening to his private calls. And so that is something we're going to get into, and we're going to bring information out about text messages that you're not aware of that Miss LeLe does have regarding Jane Doe number 5, and these messages were directed to her during the time that Mr. Kelly was incarcerated.
Yes, and I just want to add, Miss Sasha, that we appreciate LFN Media as well as HN Newsroom for continuing to show support on behalf of my brother Robert Sylvester Kelly Sr., a.k.a. R. Kelly. We appreciate you, and I stand in the gap for him to know that he would appreciate it as well. I do want to leave you with this, that my brother is a humble person, okay? He has been made aware of the book. He holds no ill will towards the young lady that wrote the book. Mm-hmm. And I say that to say this. When he was asked if he wanted a plea bargain, he said no, because he wanted his day in court. They gave him his day in court, and he was already proven guilty before being able to be proven innocent, when you're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. And because of that, he sits in the temporary dwelling of Butner LCI in Butner, North Carolina, off of these, what I'm going to say is railroaded charges.
Okay, well, there's a lot more to talk about, and I know we have a lot more to go through. And this is just the initial interview with YDK with LeLe. We are getting together the rest of the information that we do want to bring to the public, and if you have questions, you can email Sasha at hnnewsroom@gmail.com. The email, if you didn't write it down, is in the post, the info there. You can write in, and we will try to get those questions answered, or reach out if you have information that you want us to share. We will check through it, and if it is something we can use, we will be in contact with you, or we will just use the information if we can verify it. So that's all for today, and I want to thank Miss LeLe for coming on and talking with us about this situation with her godbrother. And there is more to come. We probably won't be too much on this, Rashana. I think we've pretty much, that's it. We just wanted to give some thoughts on that, because that's where we started talking a few weeks back when the book came out. But there is much more. So stay tuned. We will. I will put something up when to expect the next interview to come out. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for coming, Miss LeLe.
You're welcome, and I just want to say to those listeners, I love you. There's nothing you can do about it. And even if it was, it wouldn't change anything on my end. Miss Sasha, you, HN Newsroom, LFN Media, you guys stay blessed. And thank you for having me.